All right, Kenny Rogers is here. Hello.
Well, I'm kind of here.
Hello. Do I call you Kenny or Mr. Rogers?
Oh, Mr. Rogers will be fine.
I'm serious because I was talking to them and I said, what do I call him? Because it's such a respect thing.
You call me Mr. Rogers, I feel like I should be on television with a kids show.
That's what I said too. I said it's like the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But so, Kenny?
Please, yeah.
Okay.
I prefer that.
Well, let's clap. Kenny Rogers here in the studio. It's awesome to have you here.
Too, for whatever it's worth.
Oh, you're clapping for yourself.
Well, of course I am.
I like that.
Sounds like more people.
I got to say that and this is not a lie, I was playing your song. It's been a couple days, and I was just playing it on the air, and it wasn't on the playlist or anything like that. And I was just like, man, I really like this song. One, it has, kind of this nostalgic piece to it. However, it's also just a really good song.
Yeah, it's a great story behind this song. I was in California doing a country fest called Stagecoach, and a guy comes backstage and he said, Kenny, I'm Ryan King. I'm William King's son from the Commodores. And he said, I was meeting with some of my friends the other day, and I just realized that some of my best childhood memories are when I used to visit your farm in Athens, Georgia, and ride go-karts with your son, Chris. And he said, I told them at the time, I just realized you can't make old friends. You either have them or you don't. So the next day I was in New York with Don Schlitz. He was getting inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And I told him that story, and he said, oh, please let me have a chance at writing this song. And he said, I'll write it for you and Dolly. I said, okay. And the next day, he sent me an email with that song on it. And I just went, wow, how cool is that?
Let's listen to just a little bit of it here. Because I'm going to play the whole thing in a minute, but I want to listen to it with you. Yeah, look at this.
Can't make old friends.
How often do you and Dolly talk like normal when you're not working?
Every year. Just like clockwork. No, it's funny. That's the great thing about our relationship is that we don't have to do that. I can go 3 years without talking to her. And first of all, you have to know, and then this is the honest to God truth. I'm a little bit ashamed of this or embarrassed by this. I don't know Dolly's phone number. I don't know how to. Dolly faxes. She doesn't email.
So you guys don't text each other?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't like me, I don't think. No, but it's so cute because she'll send me something in a fax. And I say, Dolly, nobody faxes anymore. And so I sent her, I said, I just want you to know, I think you really sang great. That's not the expression I used, but I said, I think you really sang great on Old Friends, and I'm very proud of that. And I said, I would have called you and told you this, or I would have emailed you and told you, but I don't know how to reach you. And she sent me back a fax. It said, it got to me, and thanks for your comments.
Kenny Rogers in the studio now. So your career, I guess, has spanned over 6 decades, just doing the math here. Which decade to you, if you were to look back and say, the 70s, the 80s, which to you is like your decade?
Different reasons. The 60s was fun because it was the 60s, but it's just that period has a totally different complexion. The 80s is the peak of my success. That's when Lucille was released and everything kind of broke open after that. So you can't not enjoy that.
When were you the wildest? What decade?
The 60s.
Coincidentally, he said that was his
60s.
most fun decade as well.
Yeah, it was. Woo!
If TMZ would have been around in the 60s,
Oh, no.
like TMZ is now, and they chronicle everything, they're all over the place, taking pictures of everything. What would they have had you, who would you be hanging out with? What would they have had you doing?
Well, first of all, I think I started the Inquirer. I think they built their bones on me. They were everywhere I went. They had pictures of me. I'm so glad I'm not out there today because, the trick is the photographers get more money the worse the picture is. So there's no way to get anything flattering out of it. But what would they have had on me when in the 60s?
Yeah, like who would you have been with? And you had a picture of Kenny and who, and they'd been like, your PR person's got to stop this from getting out on Twitter.
Well, everybody swore that Dolly and I were having an affair, and it's not true. We just flirted with each other for 30 years, and I think that's where the chemistry came from. But I mean, there were some photographic availabilities during the 60s, I'll say that. But not anybody that anyone would know. That's never been my deal.
You ever in love with Dolly?
I've always been in love with Dolly in a very safe place, and I think she feels that it's hard to really know her and not love her because, she's the most unpretentious person I've ever met. I've said it before, and I'm not sure she likes it when I say this. She has no filter. If it goes through her mind, it comes out her mouth. And she can say things to people no one else can say. And somehow it's a compliment. I mean, you just go, oh, thank you. But she's just always been that way. She's always been very straightforward. And people say, is Dolly as sweet in person as she is? And I always tell them, if you like her on TV, you will love her in person because she's that and more.
Kenny Rogers in the studio now. What's your favorite picture that you have of you?
Of me?
Yeah.
When I was 19, I was at Galveston, Texas, which is a beach, and I'm leaning against a 57 Chevrolet in I don't know what they were called then, but it's like a real brief bathing suit. And I was real thin at the time, so I love that. But it's just the history behind that picture. When I see myself at that age, and I'm drinking a Coke, that's how bad I was, man. I was off the charts. But it was, I love, I came from the projects in Houston. I was born and raised in the projects, and we had nothing, But I managed to pull myself up and do some things. And by the time I was 19, I was in a jazz group. I played upright bass and sang avant-garde jazz for 10 years. And I think it was a great foundation musically for me. And it's just been one thing after another. That's why the autobiography is called Luck or something like it. I think I was lucky to be in point A, to then move to point B, to be able to get to point C, to then come to Nashville and meet Larry Butler. And Larry Butler's really the guy that's the anchor behind this career.
What song gets requested most to you?
Oh, I think that hands down The Gambler. I think it, because I think there's so many, we did 5 movies of the week, and I think there's such a image captured with that, and it's such an easy song to sing, and I think everybody loves the philosophy. Don Schlitz is not a gambler, nor am I. I found out a long time ago. I can't win enough to excite me, but I can lose enough to depress me, so I just stay away from it. But that song is by far the most requested.
If you could tell yourself back at 16, 17 years old in the projects one thing, give yourself a piece of advice now to then, what would you tell yourself?
Pay your taxes as you go. Put 20% aside. That's what I won't say who it was, but I watched someone on television the other day, and they said they had 14 buses. I thought, I guarantee you they're going to be broke. I can guarantee you they're going to be broke.
Did you ever watch like Cribs on MTV whenever they would go to these rappers' houses or athletes, and it would just be humongous with cars, and you got to think, okay, you're getting bad advice, right?
I've been through that. I mean, I made all those mistakes. I've had a great life. I can't deny it. And I don't know that I regret it. I think that having come from where I came from, and I think that's what happens. I saw a thing on television that said the average NFL football player is in bankruptcy 2 years after he retires. It's because you have so much hype you have to live up to get yourself on top, personally as well as physically, that you have to have the cars, you have to have the bling, you have to have all this other stuff. And it's the same thing with country artists. It's not the bling, but it's, you got to have all the buses, you got to have all the crew, you got to have all the staging. And it's not wrong, it's just a bad choice,
Speaking of bling, what's the most bling you have?
Have now?
Yeah.
9-year-old twins.
Yeah.
Don't I look older? The more you think about it.
Wow. So that's crazy, huh? It's like
it is. It's,
chasing them around.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't chase them anymore. They know they can outrun me, so we don't get into that fight. But they're identical twins, and it's the coolest thing. I'll tell you. They say that at my age, having kids makes you or breaks you, and right now I'm leaning heavily toward break.
Do they know how cool you are?
Well, I know they know how to use it.
Right.
If that means anything, because I'll hear Justin say to his friends, "My dad's very famous, We went last year at New Year's Eve. We went on a Disney cruise on the cruise boat, and we go over to this island, Disney Island. So we're coming back to get in line, and there's 200 people in front of us, and I'm standing in line, and we're going along, and Jordan says, "Hey, Dad, I thought we were supposed to be VIPs. I thought, oh, God." I mean, they can play that, but I don't think they really grasp it. But they come on stage with me when they're out, and Jordan will come up and he'll take my microphone. He'll go interview the guy in the front row. "Hey, what's your name?" And they see me do it, so it's kind of cool,
Kenny Rogers here on the Bobby Bone Show. If I ask you how many albums you've sold in your life, do you know?
120 million.
165 million?
I'll go with your number.
Yeah, that's what.
Sounds better.
That's what was just told to
Let's
us.
say 200.
500 million. Kenny Rogers sold
that's
500
it.
million
Most
albums
of anybody in the world.
ever. Yes.
Ever.
Okay, so if I were to say how much money is in your checking account, would you know that answer?
Yeah, but I'm not going to
Okay.
tell you.
I thought maybe you just spit that out there too.
$20. Yeah.
So what do you carry cash in your wallet then when you're walking around? What's Kenny Rogers walking around money?
You know, I carry, believe it or not, I carry about $1,000 or $1,500 because I know it's crazy. But I may need to get my car washed, you know. So
True. What do you drive right now? What's your main car?
Mine, I have a Lexus, a 1970. No, what am I saying? A 2012 Lexus.
There's a big difference, Kenny, in a 1970 and a 2012.
Not to me. They're all the same. I don't think Lexus was around in 1970.
Well, we're all huge fans.
Oh,
and,
that's so
and
nice.
it's been so cool to talk to you. And we're gonna play the song now. And again, I just honestly saw it on YouTube. I mean, that's where I saw old
Really?
friends to me was like, hey, I know you like Kenny, I know you like Dolly, so I watched it on YouTube, and I wasn't told to play it on the air or anything. And I was like, you guys have to hear this because this song is so good. And I played it, and I'm telling you, the reaction of the people of all ages, you know, from all the generations has been, wow, this song is so good. And yet still so like emotionally touching and nostalgic, all combined in one. So I'm just such a big fan of the song.
And I appreciate that more than you know. That was the whole idea. You know, it's not whether you've worked together, but I mean, my wife, for instance, called all of her girlfriends from college and said, I just want to say hello to you. I haven't talked to you in a while. So it's kind of helped reestablish old friendships.
You know, I want to ask you, because you were on the original We Are the World, right?
Right.
Like back in the day.
Yeah.
What was Michael Jackson like? Like really?
Well, Michael became good friends of mine. And it's a tragic story. It's like Elvis. You know, it's a tragic story when you can't live your life. You can't. I used to go backstage to Elvis when we were working at the Hilton Hotel. We were in the lounge and he was in the main room, and I'd go watch his show and he'd say, come on back after the show. And I only went to see his show because he'd introduced me as his friend, which I thought was pretty cool. I'd go backstage and talk to him, and I'd say, you know, I'm not a hanger-oner. I spend a certain amount of time, then I go. And I said, hey, I'm going to go out and play some blackjack. He said, you have no idea how much I'd love to go out and sit down at the table and play blackjack with you. And I said, well, come on, let's go. And he said, I think that they had him convinced that he would get hurt. And in all fairness and retrospect, he probably would have. I think people would have clamored over him so much that he couldn't do it. But it's the same thing with Michael Jackson. When I took his picture in my book, I did a book called Your Friends and Mine, has Elizabeth Taylor on the front, Michael Jackson, and 3 presidents of the United States. And I told everybody, I said, you'll be here 15 minutes. I'll do 2 black and white, 2 color, and you'll be out. Michael brought Bubbles, his chimpanzee, stayed 8 hours because he didn't have anything else to do. He was safe and he and I became really close friends. And I love those moments with people, you know, where you can get a chance to break down what you've heard and find out what's really true.
Did you feel like you were able to watch these guys, you know, at their highest of high, and then kind of lose touch with them as it kind of spiraled out of control for both of them, both Elvis and Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in a position, no matter how close friends I thought I was, I'm not in a position to say, hey, slow down. That's not my role. My role was, how you doing, what's going on in your life, and they told me. If they didn't, they didn't. But you hate it. It's like I look at Lindsay Lohan out there, and I just see people that, you know, what happens is the big fear in this business is not being recognized. And I think that's what everybody, look at Miley Cyrus, what she's doing now. Is it going to work? It's going to get her some press. And in L.A., any press is good press. They're talking about you. Not for me. I don't need that kind of stuff. And I think it's a sad mistake. And I think people have to be careful. You have to live with the theme, more so now than ever before. Anything you do now is going to be around forever. So it's just dangerous. I wish I could have helped both of them.
Anyone ever reach out to you and say, hey, can I get some advice?
My ex-wife.
Yeah.
Not advice.
Yeah, right. She's reaching out for something else.
Can I get some more money? I said, she took everything I had. What more did she want?
Kenny, it's been an honor.